Welcome to your Geopolitical Updates channel. A piece of personal news of significance pertains to the military coup that occurred in Gabon, an African country whose economy is heavily reliant on oil exports. Once again, Gabon finds itself in a state of independence from France. Virtually all the countries we are discussing are facing challenges, as is the case with Niger. However, Gabon is a country currently undergoing coup attempts and government changes. These countries are primarily former French colonies that, despite having achieved political independence, still maintain economic relationships that perpetuate their dependence. This is facilitated through trade agreements upheld by France, which secure financing and influence in exchange for mineral resources at more affordable prices. Since gaining its independence, Gabon has been effectively governed by a single family. This includes the newly elected Ali Bongo, who has held power for 14 years. When we add his time in office to that of his father, Omar, their combined rule totals 56 years of domination. Their relations with the French were not excellent, but rather intriguing. France sustained its dominance by providing financial transfers to the Gabonese leadership, which governed in alignment with French interests, or at least to a significant extent. This illustrates a form of neo-colonialism or neo-imperialism, showcasing how economic relations sustain control even after achieving political independence. We should not naively believe that Russia, through the Wagner Group's involvement in the coup, is acting with benevolent intentions by challenging French imperialism. The reality is that global geopolitical dynamics are at play. Russia is striving to expand its influence at the expense of European countries, following decades of exploiting the African continent. Their actions may very well mirror the practices of European colonizers. Hence, we must not cling to the notion that these actions solely aim for independence. The coup unfolded in Gabon due to elections in which Ali Bongo was recently re-elected. Surprisingly, the opposition was seen as the favorite, with a slogan proclaiming Gabon is not the property of the Bongos. This sentiment arose due to the prolonged dominance of this family in power, which bred suspicion regarding the legitimacy of the electoral process. The situation worsened with suspicions of fraud, resulting in internet shutdowns and curfews. The outcome was Ali Bongo's re-election, contradicting expectations indicated by polls. Given these circumstances, the military seized power, placing Ali Bongo and his family under house arrest. While Ali Bongo has publicly expressed his intention to democratically regain control, many in the international community do not view the coup negatively. This stems from the perception that Bongo's election was itself a coup, making the current coup an intervention upon another. As for Russia's influence, it remains unclear given its historical relations with France. Global geopolitics is complex, and despite concerns, we cannot definitively assert Russian involvement. Within the broader global geopolitical context, Europe, represented by Borrell, expresses concerns about the potential spread of such coups across the African continent. Russia itself echoes similar concerns. However, it is important to acknowledge that geopolitics is ambiguous, with past actions by the United States and France illustrating how international politics is multifaceted. Unfortunately, Gabon now joins the list of countries that have experienced democratic disruptions. Apparently, a significant portion of the local population supports the military coup. Despite not being a member of OPEC, the country possesses abundant oil reserves. Since we are talking about military coups, let's talk about the case of Niger, which underwent a military coup with the overthrow of President Bazoum and the rise of General Tiani. In fact, the United States, through Vice President Kamala Harris, made a visit, but they were unable to negotiate directly with General Tiani. Americans heard that the military coup would not be reversed, as it is something that the population wants. The former government was unable to cope with the pressure of jihadists, with violence increasing in the country. Today, Niger has the support of Burkina Faso and Mali, which have undergone very similar processes. In compensation, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, led by Nigeria, Côte d'Ivoire, and Benin, has decided that it already has a D-Day. When negotiations fail, they will attack Niger. In turn, Niger will have the defense of Mali and Burkina Faso. But another player is entering the conflict. It is another country that is leaving the wings of France and entering, this time, on a more Russian side, with pro-Putin slogans. So, France is very angry, even because Niger has large uranium reserves. It is the 7th largest uranium reserve in the world. Emmanuel Macron, from the beginning, approved this ECOWAS intervention, including from a military point of view. For now, this military intervention has not happened. But Niger, considering that France no longer represents national interests, made a very significant diplomatic order, which was the expulsion of the French ambassador. France did not accept the expulsion of the French ambassador from Niger, as it does not recognize General Tiani as the official government. As France does not recognize General Tiani, it is as if no one had said anything. That is why the ambassador will remain there. But then the Nigerian troops surrounded the French embassy. I think France was hoping for this to happen, to give a reason for the intervention in the country. I even told you about this in previous videos. Nigerian troops cut off the water and electricity surrounding the embassy's space. But the embassy is a French territory, a foreign territory, where there are French diplomats, workers, Europeans. Any kind of attack or coercion against those people will be a reason that France will consider, perhaps not to place its troops officially in Niger, but to provide weapons, equipment, even military training for troops from Nigeria, Benin, and Côte d'Ivoire to carry out this intervention. And one more thing, guys, to finish up, Ukraine launched the largest drone attack on Russia. The attack was carried out with drones, but the numbers are still very difficult to establish. For example, one of the most widely reported attacks in the media was on an airfield in Kherson, which damaged 4 Ilyushin Il-76 aircraft with about 20 drones. This attack is symptomatic because it happened about 700 kilometers from Russia, but only 60 kilometers from Estonia, a NATO member and former Soviet Union member. So it is suspected that the attack occurred through external means, that is, from drones that crossed hundreds of thousands of kilometers. However, it is much more difficult for these drones to go undetected by air defenses. Therefore, the attack may have been carried out with a more stealthy drone, capable of causing damage to 4 Russian aircraft. This means that the drone was more advanced, which suggests that the attack was carried out by Ukraine, which received assistance from the West. In addition to this attack, Ukraine also announced the conquest of Rubizn, which broke through the first line of Russian defense. This could be a significant advance towards Zaporizhia, which would cut off communication between the Donbass region and Kherson and Crimea, facilitating Ukrainian logistics. However, the Russians are becoming increasingly angry with Ukraine's attacks, which are receiving assistance from the West. Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson for the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, guaranteed that Russia will respond in kind to the attack. Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia and an ally of the current government, also stated that the world is getting closer to Armageddon because NATO is participating in the attacks on Russia. He even cited the case of the Crimean Bridge, which was attacked, according to him, by NATO intelligence. If NATO is actually participating in the attacks, Russia would have the right to attack a member of the alliance. This would lead to an escalation of violence, including the possibility of a nuclear war. Is Medvedev exaggerating to scare NATO? Will Putin risk a war that could destroy Russia? Medvedev himself has already guaranteed that a world without Russia is a world that does not deserve to exist. This means that the annihilation of Russia by NATO would also mean the end of the world. If you enjoyed this, give it a like and subscribe. See you next time.